It's been 10 years of only using iPhones, so I thought, why not try to change that? I've heard a lot of great things about the Samsung S24, and the Ultra model to be more specific. And to be fair, there are really good Android features that I don't really want to miss out on anymore. So I decided to give the Samsung S24 Ultra a try. And in this video, you'll see my first impressions using the S24 Ultra as an iPhone user of the last 10 years. As you know, I'm currently away from home. I came from Toronto to Alanya, Turkey, and today I'm actually flying to Istanbul. I'll be continuing the rest of my Europe trip in Istanbul. And throughout my travel journey, along with all the other things that I'm doing today, I like to take the S24 Ultra with me to test it out in real-world scenarios. And before we get too technical, let's talk about the physical features. I chose my S24 Ultra in the titanium black color, and I'm actually really happy with the color. And here I'm comparing the S24 Ultra with the iPhone 15 Pro. There's quite a bit of a size difference, and you'll notice this especially if you're coming from a smaller device. And for me, that device is the iPhone 15 Pro. And as always, I like to case my phones. And I feel like the S24 Ultra will take a bit to get used to, so I'll keep it cased and protected in case I drop it. And the device itself, without a case, weighs around 232 grams. That's a bit of a difference in weight compared to the iPhone 15 Pro that weighs 187 grams. But to be honest, I don't really mind it because I do appreciate the larger display. And of course, as usual, I use my phones as a creative tool. And yes, we are going to talk about all the creative features on the S24 Ultra. Let me know in the comments, other than communicating, what do you use your phone for? Okay, so it's flight day today. We're heading to Istanbul from Alanya. It was a pretty good, nice 10 days here. Nice and warm, got to swim a lot. Now I'm going to go experience Istanbul with Alex. It's their first time there, and for the rest of the trip I'm going to be strictly using the S24 Ultra. There are some really good features that I like with the S24 Ultra so far, and let's see, I'm really going to invest a lot of time in this phone, and I'm actually going to switch and give you guys my real world experience with the S24 Ultra. But you know, I'm pretty new with it still, so I want to talk about my first impressions, and then we'll make a detailed video about what I think of some of the specific features and overall experience with the phone. Now, looking at the philosophy of both Apple and Android. Android lets you customize and let you have the experience you want out of your device. Whereas on the Apple side, flexibility is a little bit more limited, but that for some aspects reflects on performance. And looking at Google Play Store, it feels more consumer friendly. I'm seeing more apps, which opens room for more free app options. And obviously this is good for developers and consumers at the same time. Definitely massive bonus points here. My brief time with Android tells me that Android devices, and specifically Samsung right here, they're not afraid of taking risks and letting people have the experience they want out of their device. My only wish is these companies becoming closer friends, because even to transfer footage or photos to my Mac is a nightmare from the S24 Ultra. With technology so advanced, we should not be looking at workarounds to do simple tasks. Time for a quick dip in the pool before the airport. I'm really gonna miss this place, but I'm really excited for Istanbul. Rest of my plan looks like this. I'll be in Istanbul for the next 8 days, and then I'll be heading over to England for the week after that. The main goal here is to get out of Canada for a little bit, and also really look at the S24 Ultra in more detail. And a special thanks to Best Buy for sending over the S24 Ultra. This video is not sponsored, but they've been a very good support to the channel. Best Buy often runs promotions on cell phones. I'll have a link in the description for you. If you're looking to get the S24 Ultra, it may be on sale. Anyways, we're all packed, ready to go. We are staying about 30 minutes away from the airport, and it's a domestic flight, so we can just kind of walk in. It's a very small airport. As usual, when someone else drives, that is my time to film. Usually, I'm the one driving, so there are shots I wish I would get. And if I have someone on the passenger side, it's very hard to explain the shots to people. So I'm glad for this moment I'm not driving. Now moving on to the screen, the S24 Ultra has a really nice 6.8-inch display with 4K resolution. It also comes with 120Hz refresh rate that makes everything feel super smooth. Whether you're scrolling through social media or playing high-intensity games, you're gonna have fun. The peak brightness on the S24 Ultra is 2600 nits, and unless you're directly under the sun, this should be fine. And I also like that the screen-to-body ratio is almost 90%. This is really important for viewing experience. I noticed that the phone comes in vivid color mode. I would change this to natural immediately for a more accurate color experience, but it's good to have the option. But if you are a creative, it's important that you see things in accurate colors, so keep that in mind. And of course, to get the best out of your S24 Ultra screen, be sure to switch into 4K resolution. Looking into the screen settings, there are so many features to turn on or off just in the screen settings alone. And this is the very best thing about Android devices. It's almost time to board our plane. I'm actually filming this clip with the 10x zoom on the S24 Ultra. Man, this 10x zoom is awesome to have. We're definitely gonna dive into video and photo settings, but I really wanted to show you this clip in the 10x. Just lining up for boarding right now. I know the S24 has a one-handed feature, but this is what it looks like to use this phone without the one-handed mode. This phone is quite large and it sometimes gets difficult to use one-handed. But this is exactly why we have the one-handed mode. You just have to think for yourself, is the large display worth carrying a bigger device for yourself? I'll be honest, I don't love pocketing this phone. I typically, almost all the time, carry it in my hand. And for me, in exchange of that, a bigger screen is a good trade-off. Our flight length from Alanya to Istanbul will be just about an hour. And for this month that I'm away, I only packed a backpack with my camera gear and a carry-on full of my clothes. That's it. And that is why having a smartphone with a really good camera for videos and photos is important for me. I like packing light, I like staying minimal, and I am lazy. I don't want to pull out my full-size camera. So the smartphone that I carry with me has to be consistent or be very close to the level of my actual camera. So that's always a deal breaker for me, as well as a good battery life. And for the S24 Ultra's case, it's not doing bad at all. Safely landed in Istanbul. Man, I miss this place. Can't wait to get out of this huge airport and head to the city. We'll be staying in the European side of Istanbul. Okay, so we just landed. It has been a pretty packed morning. My ears are clogged. We have about a couple hours until we check into our Airbnb. We're gonna kill some time. And by the way, the S24 battery is doing really well. When it comes to looking at Android coming from iOS, I'm finding that when it comes to performance and speed, there's not much of a difference. But to be fair, I've only had the past couple weeks to play with the S24 Ultra fully. I'm curious to know what the next month or so will bring. One thing that I always liked with Apple is that it did have a clean interface. It was always basic, simple to use. Last time I had an Android device, it was 10 years ago. I'm witnessing that the Android operating system went in a simpler and a more minimalist route since the 10 years. Android 14 operating system definitely shows that, and the Samsung S24 Ultra with the body shows a lot of simplicity. But despite the simplicity in the body, the S Pen definitely makes this device really sophisticated. I use the S Pen to edit my photos on Lightroom. Right now, while having brunch, I'm just editing some of the photos I captured during my Alanya trip. I honestly love editing with a pen. With a pen, I have more control of my edits, more control of my masking tools, and more importantly, it looks badass. Now, when it comes to all the other features that the S Pen brings, I prefer to use the S Pen for pen purposes. And my only reason to use the pen is typically to edit, but I'm definitely gonna cover some of the features of the S Pen on a separate video. It's an amazing tool to use, and I can't wait to get used to it. And the thing that feels weird with the Samsung S24 Ultra so far is the fact that something else came with the phone. While packages get smaller and we're not even given power adapters anymore, including a pen like this into the phone feels quite luxurious. It's to a point if I don't use the S Pen for a couple days, it still shocks me that it's there. Alright, it's time to go around Istanbul and show you what the S24 Ultra camera can do. We're gonna be spending quite a bit of time in the Bosporus. It's the most iconic thing about Istanbul. The first thing that I test when it comes to smartphones is the camera. A good smartphone camera is either gonna win me over or it's gonna be a deal breaker. And this is how I work with smartphone cameras. They're never my first camera. They're usually my B camera when I'm shooting these YouTube videos. But when it makes more sense to record with the phone rather than pulling out a full-size camera, that's where my phone steps in. We're gonna get back to talking about the video features of the S24 Ultra, but let me show you guys how the circle to search works. This is awesome. This is a pretty famous hotel on the Bosporus. I'm just gonna pretend that I don't know this place, and here we go. It searches it so quick, it even gives me room prices. It's awesome. Alright, back to what this device can do when it comes to video. I'll talk about the one negative thing that I'm not a huge fan of. The S24 Ultra does not film in the log format. Log format is basically filming a footage almost colorless and flat so that you can color grade it in post-production. It helps you to have footage that is more custom because it gives you that color grading flexibility. But despite not featuring log filming, the S24 Ultra when it comes to video is still pretty impressive. Look at this clip with 10x zoom. It looks so awesome, and look how well it actually stabilizes. I was pretty skeptical of the 10x zoom. I always thought how good could a digital zoom could be. Well, I was definitely wrong. Throughout my trip, I opted into film at Ultra HD at 60 frames. I know this device can film at 8K at 30 frames, but I don't really work in 30 frames. I film in 60 frames in case I want to slow motion some clips. And honestly, 4K is good enough. 8K would be overkill when it comes to space. And also, I do have the 256GB version of the S24 Ultra. I'm definitely going to share my camera settings on a more detailed video. But just like the general experience with the phone, there's a lot of settings you can tick on that's gonna help you get the right footage with the best settings. Also, I mostly use the regular video mode rather than the Pro mode in order to take advantage of the 10x zoom. The Pro video mode does not come with 10x zoom. It only goes up to 5 times. So far, I think there are really good things about the S24 Ultra video mode. I like to put it through more of a test because we're only working with a certain type of lighting in here. But what about photography? Photography is where the S24 Ultra shines. My go-to photography mode is the Pro mode. With the Pro mode, you can set all the manual settings like you would on an actual camera. With the Pro mode, you can also take advantage of the ultra wide and super telephoto 5x zoom. I use the 12 megapixel mode because the 50 megapixels actually limits your focal lengths. It gives you 2 different focal length options. And I feel like that defeats the purpose of using a versatile small device. And keep in mind, I'm using the Pro mode picture format, which is the RAW format. It does give you larger files, but you can put those files through a serious editing process. Like I mentioned before, if I take photos from the phone, I typically edit them on the device, and the S Pen comes in clutch for that. And here's a look at some of my favorite photos from the last couple weeks. The S24 is pretty good for casual photos, and with editing you can make your photos look pretty unique to you. Here are some before and afters for you to have an idea of what the S24 editing looks like. While I wrap up the video, I'll say a few things about the battery. Coming from the iPhone 15 Pro, I knew that there was going to be a difference in battery capacity. With a full day of using the phone from about 7 AM till about 9 PM and charging the phone twice for about 15 minutes, I got the phone down to 20%. Keep in mind, because it's so sunny in Istanbul, I used the phone on max brightness, and I actually edited some photos on the go. And mind you, the hot weather does not help batteries at all. Compare the iPhone 15 Pro battery versus the S24 Ultra. I think my iPhone would have probably died around 5 o'clock. So there you have it. This was my first look at Samsung S24 Ultra. This is a powerhouse of a phone with impressive features packed with a sleek design. It's perfect for those who are into the Android operating system. Or if you're an Apple fan and wanting to switch, this may be the best Android device for you. Alright, so that's it for me today. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of the evening in Istanbul. Next week, we're gonna look at the Samsung S24 Ultra in more detail. As always, thank you so much for watching. It has been a pleasure. I'll see you in the next one.